So today's video, I just want to give you guys a little bit of background on myself, a little bit of my journey, and I want this to be a place where, other starseeds who have had a hard time here on Earth can find community, can help get questions answered, things like that. And I also want to tell my story because each story is unique to that individual soul, and I think that this might help a lot of you who have had rather bizarre stories, and so let's begin. I don't want to make this too long, so I'm going to try and remember and kind of skirt around things that maybe aren't as important, but I would consider myself a starseed, and there are different types of starseeds, and we're not going to go into that in this video. We'll save that for the next one. But I am definitely more starseed than human. I know that might sound really strange, and so it's been a struggle just to be in the now, because that's why you're here. You want to be here, you want to help out, and so you really need to find a good balance between being in the now, and then, on the side, like working with your different star families, and then helping everybody here. And so that's been one of my struggles, and it's something I'm still working on. I have a rather odd beginning story. I wasn't like birthed into a family like you might think. A lot of people have their mom and their dad, and they have baby pictures, and they know their bloodline, they know their ancestors, all that stuff. So for me, it was a little different. I'm adopted, and I don't know my adopted family, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. I had a really great family that I was adopted into, very conservative, and I know that I chose my family, and I know the specific reasons I chose them. So even though, for us starseeds, it's hard because we think, I can't even deal with everything today, let alone my family, and when is this going to get better? But you have to remember, you chose your family for a reason, because it's gonna help you learn, it's gonna help you advance, regardless of what type of family you chose. And so my family was very conservative. I grew up pretty religious. I even went to a parochial school. As a child, I always had this feeling like I was dropped off by a stork. And as funny as that sounds, now that I'm being able to dig into my galactic, origins and things, it's not as far off as you might think. When I was talking with a relatively well-known and superb channeler the other day, we were kind of joking, and I said, well, I must have birth parents, and she said, I said, I must have birth parents. It's not like I could have been dropped off by a stork. And she goes, well, if a spaceship counts. And I just thought that was really odd, funny and amusing, and to the point, actually, because she didn't know that, my whole life, I have actually had a spaceship come and check up on me. And that was the only time, other than now, that I had felt home, love, and family. Looking up at the ship that was, from here to here away from me, that was the only time I really felt that I belonged. So I had a disconnect of sorts with trying to fit in with my adopted family, and I think a lot of times, probably a lot of adopted kids say that. My issues stemmed from the fact that I'm a very empathetic person. I sometimes have problems with words. I would rather have you just telepathically know what I'm saying, because that's how I function. That's how I like to function. So I had a problem with feeling like I belong. And it's not like, you know, they were an amazing family. I never wanted for anything. In their own way, they made me feel really loved. But from my point of view, it was a huge disconnect with the bloodline. And I know this sounds really silly, like I'll talk about bloodlines all the time, but when you are born into a family, regardless of your galactic origins, you have a connection, you have a special genetic connection, a special bond with, you know, that family. And I didn't have that because I didn't have their bloodline. You know, I would watch how my brothers and sisters interacted with my family and how they interacted with my brothers and sisters. And, you know, I saw a difference because I couldn't be on that same level a lot of the times. So from the beginning, it was definitely obvious that I was different, regardless if it was just because I was adopted or if it was because, you know, I was a star child. I remember when I was maybe like 2, 3 earlier, laying in my bed and hearing all these different voices, you know, different languages, you know, French, German, which I remember now, but also different galactic languages, which I didn't know at the time. And you know, I had different like light beings in my room. At the time I called them ghosts because I didn't know, I couldn't differentiate between, you know, a spirit of someone who has passed who doesn't want to go on versus, you know, a light being. And I knew from early on that I couldn't say anything because in my family it wouldn't go very well. And I was smart enough to know when to say something and when not to say something. So I think a lot of star children probably have that same issue where things are happening and they don't really have anyone to tell because it's not normal. You know, we're taught that those things don't exist. We're taught that, you know, you can't hear stuff that's not there. You can't see things that aren't in front of you. In my learnings, I heard something absolutely fascinating. Someone told me once that if the word imagination was taken out of the dictionary and it didn't exist, we didn't use it, can you conceptualize how different things would be? And I think about that a lot. But for me, it was just completely different. I was living on different spheres, different planes, different dimensions. At the same time, when I was little, as you know, trying to function with this family and trying to fit in and wanting to feel loved, it's, you know, aside from seeing things, and I do actually speak a language. I've spoken it since I was little. I used to speak it with beings that would come, and in my head, I would carry on conversations in my head. But I didn't actually know that it's an actual galactic language. It's called the An-Ra, which is the more evolved Anunnaki and Lemurian. And I know everybody's going to be like, the word Anunnaki, and I know everybody has specific feelings as what that brings up inside you, but that is something else that we can talk about too, because things that you know, or that most people know, or like Zecharia Sitchin in his writings about the Anunnaki, I am not saying they're not correct. I am not saying that they are correct either. So I think there were a lot of things that were missed, and hopefully we can go over that. but I am recording the language now. It's a language that really hasn't been talked about or recognized as far as galactic languages, and the channeler I was talking with said that you know, there's only a few people who actually know that that language ever exists or existed. There came a point where trying to balance life in the here and now and what I was experiencing, and especially like I think for a lot of star children, star seeds, they like to sleep, because when you sleep, just like me, you aren't tied down so much to your physical body, and you're able to go different places, go back home, you know, go experience different planets and different spheres, different dimensions, things like that. And for me, that was the same thing. When I was in grade school and high school, I couldn't wait to go to sleep, even though I never really slept well. And I think a lot of starseeds have that problem too, sleeping. But you know, I would have these dreams, and they were so real. And I even noticed that they were different. They weren't just dreams. They were way too real to be dreams. But they were of Egypt. They were in a palace. Numerous dreams. You know, that is where I felt comfortable. When I had to actually deal with real life and try and figure out how I'm going to fit into society, how I'm going to fit into my family, it was just very overwhelming. And there came a point early in high school, very early, because I didn't go to a middle school. My parochial school went from kindergarten to 8th grade, and then I just jumped into high school, where I was so lost. I had like some more abilities had come to me, and I started realizing that I had certain abilities that could maybe attract friends, or that would be really fun to use. Like one of them was like I could sit down in front of like a Ouija board, and the planchette could just go like, we didn't need to touch it, or I didn't need to touch it. And you know, my friends thought that was really cool. And I was starting to go down a really dark path at that time. And I wanted to end it. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to go home. You know, I wanted to have that feeling of, you know, looking up at that ship that would come and check up on me, or looking up at Sirius and Orion and Cassiopeia, and just feeling a presence of, this is where your home is, you know. So I was sleeping one night, and I had an out-of-body experience, which at the time I thought I was dying, and it was terrifying. I had two guides on each side of me to guide me down this tunnel. Now, everybody's experiences are going to be different, so just because this is how I experienced it doesn't mean this is how you will experience it, or, you know, when that time comes, if that time comes, it's not going to probably be the same, because it's all relative to you know, what you grew up in, your belief system, and things like that. So I was taken through this tunnel, guides on each side, or angels. At the time, they were angels, and I had hands like reaching out from me, but they couldn't touch me. And when I got to the other side, I met with this big group. Like it was ancestors, it was family, it was my star family, it was my family, my peoples, and it was amazing. They actually showed me not like Earth as if we were in a spaceship type of thing, but Earth as if you were looking in on everyone at the same time, and you could see what everybody was doing and hear all the talking and the different languages like I heard when I was little. And they basically said, you know, we know that this has been really hard for you. Like, we see you struggling. We know, you know, that you know that you're different, and you don't have answers, and that you don't feel like you fit into your family, and that you need to feel a home. Like, my whole life I had been searching for a home. It's very hard to explain when you have that emptiness and you feel like you don't belong anywhere and you feel like you don't have a home. And they said, you need to know that even if you don't feel like you have a home down there, you have a home and you have a family, and we're here. This is who we are. You know, we love you, and you need to know that you have a wonderful mission. You're special, even though you don't feel like it, and it's your choice. You know, you're going down a path right now. You can either go down a good path or a bad path. You can use your abilities for good or bad. It's your choice. But right now, if you keep going down this path, it's not going to be good. And I said, well, yeah, I want to come home. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be there anymore. And they said, we understand that, and we can't tell you that you can't come back. You know, we can't stop you from doing that. But we can tell you that things are going to get better, and pretty soon you're going to find home, and things won't look so bad. So I was like, okay. I was chilling with my great grandparents at the time. It was pretty awesome. And the next thing I knew, I was back. I was back in my own body. I got jammed back in. I think I was a little nervous. So that first time, it was painful because when you go back in your body, and if you're not calm and cool and collected, your body kind of goes into shock a little bit, and it paralyzes you, and so you can't really do anything, and it's just for protection. But then that terrified me even more, and so I was like, oh, I don't want this to ever happen again, you know. And so for a while, things had kind of calmed down. I had somehow been able to shut some of the extra abilities off, which I think I really needed at that time. And then as soon as I got to high school, I did actually meet somebody, and he was in college at the time, but it turned out, like, when I first met him, I knew that he was different, that him and I were different. And this can, you know, be talked about as the whole twin flame, but I think there's more to it, and we'll get into that into another video. But we were actually best friends. You know, we're still friends, but we were best friends for forever, years. Like I said, I have over 20 years experience in this. So, and that is what I needed. I needed someone where I felt home, where I didn't have to pretend to be somebody I wasn't, where I would be accepted for myself, where I could be goofy. I wasn't, you know, like most high school girls, they're into like boys and I don't know, just things. They want to grow up, and I didn't want to grow up. I wanted to be a kid, you know. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have like laser tag fights and play card games, and I wanted to do all that stuff. I didn't want to have to think about like boyfriends and relationships, and like that just wasn't me, and that wasn't him either. So it worked out really well. We had a really strong connection. Like, I just knew that was home for me, and I think I was home for him too. And so there's more to it than that. Like, not only was it comfortable, but he pushed me, and he pushed me really hard. I would get so frustrated because I would say, you know, our friendship is not a normal friendship. There's a reason why I think I know you before, why I have these dreams of like these past lives with you. It's just really odd, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. And so in doing that, I was able to start soul searching for myself. And I was able to really concentrate on me. Granted, it was a little bit of us too, because I wanted to know what that was. I didn't have internet back then, so it was all books, and they didn't have that term twin flame back then. But I knew that it was different, it was special, and I feel like my family sent him to me to, you know, keep me here, to let me have that feeling of family, to be able to be myself, because I really needed that. I really needed a place to do that. And so, you know, things kind of progressed. I went to college. I got a lot of degrees in various things, all history, archaeology related, things like that. But the history comes in, it comes into the StarSeed, in my experience, because not having that home, not having that bloodline, not having that, you know, family history to look at, I always wondered why I was drawn to specific times in history. You know, why was I drawn to, even though my parochial school and stuff, why was I drawn to like Yeshua? Why was I drawn to, you know, ancient Egypt? Why did I know how to read hieroglyphics when I was little? You know, those things, because that was my tie to earth. Those, when I finally realized that the whole concept of like reincarnation and past lives and stuff like that, that was my tie. That's what held me here. And that's how I learned who I was, through knowing those past lives, not to relive them, not to dwell on them, but to know that I am connected. I had that connection. And I think that was really important. You know, these days I'm still working on, you know, learning who I am. So if we skip to the present, I can say that I'm really glad that now you guys have communities where you can talk about this stuff. But I wouldn't change mine for the world. The fact that I didn't have that community, I wouldn't change it. It's made me strong. It's made me determined. And it's made me really proud, you know, proud that I figured it out. Proud that I listened to my inner voice. Proud that even though there's been obstacles, and there has, definitely, I went through a phase where I just realized that, you know, I can't do the normal standard, go to school, get married, have kids, have a job that you hate, come home, do it all again. I couldn't do that. I had to realize that, you know, I'm strong. It's all inside here. It's all inside here, and you just have to unlock it. And, you know, you can help others. Right now, I have gone from being homeless to running my own business, and it's a very successful business, and I'm able to help heal people, and I absolutely love it. And I got remarried. My husband is amazing, and we are definitely two souls from the same pod, or the same galactic center, and we work together. And so, you know, now that I'm really able to focus on not so much the history, and not so much figuring out how I connect and how I belong, that I'm able to focus more on, you know, my astral travels and my star family, and balancing the two, so I can bring back the hidden knowledge that is all locked up here, and that I know, but a lot of stuff hasn't been talked about yet. And so that's where I am now, and that's what I want this channel to be. So times, you know, get tough for StarSeeds, and I know that because I've been through that. I've been at the lowest of the low and the highest of the high. So, you know, follow along with me, follow my journey, and I hope to be an inspiration to you guys, because I know there's a lot of you out there who are looking for answers, and who are thinking, my mission is just too tough. Like, I don't even know how to incorporate it into my life. I don't know how to change my life. I don't know how to do any of this. Like, I have this need to help and this need to, you know, do all this amazing stuff. But like, how do I do that? I'm stuck. So, you know, hopefully we can inspire you guys. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And I want to leave you with a little bit of light language, or a little bit of star language. Ukananamlatakahu Ashanama Agama Talaki Amantitu Hulakawa Ashu Ashanana Amashu Ashunana Lakata Ahu Ama Tiku Tumalaku